Welcome back, everyone. No matter where you are, no matter what time it may be, I hope y'all are doing well out there. Now, before we dive in, I just want to say something that hits close to home for me, personally. A lot of us treat our pets like family. I know I do. For some folks, it's a dog that never leaves their side. For others, it's a cat that always seems to know when something's not right. Out on farms, it's horses, goats, or whatever livestock you care for. One thing is for sure. Animals can pick up on things that we cannot. When the barking starts for no apparent reason, or the horses panic in the stables or at the fence line, or even when the quiet ones suddenly bolt and hide, you better pay attention. Tonight's encounters are all reminders of just that. Time and time again, the people who lived through these stories said the same thing. Their animals knew before they did. They saw it, smelled it, or sensed it long before their owners knew anything was wrong. And what makes this legit and chilling is that every time, the Dogman shows itself not long after. I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives to listen. If you've had an encounter of your own and would like to share it here on the channel, be sure and reach out to me. Send me an email. I'd love to hear your story. My email address will be linked in the description below this video. Now, lock in, and let's begin. Everyone grab a drink, lock your doors and windows, hit the lights, and let's get started. Hello, Reels. I'm sending you this because I've heard multiple encounters and multiple people say the same thing. Their dogs or their animals knew something was out there before they did. I believe that now more than ever. If it wasn't for our German Shepherd, Mags, I might have never noticed what was standing right in my own backyard. This happened last October. My wife was in bed and I had passed out on the couch with the TV on. I remember waking up to Mags barking, but not her normal "there's a car in the driveway" bark. This was harsh, steady, with this deep growl between each one like she was warning something off. We had had animals get into the trash, of course, like most people. But she just kept going. Bark, pause, growl, bark again, like she wasn't going to stop until I paid attention. I was too tired to deal with it and didn't think much of it, so I rolled over. She just kept getting louder and more aggressive, and finally started rubbing her nose and pushing my arms. So I got up, still half asleep, and walked to the back door. Our porch light automatically flips on with motion, so by the time I stepped out, it was shining across the yard. Mags was stiff. Her tail was straight, hackles all the way up. She wasn't barking at the fence like she usually does when the neighbors walk by. She was locked dead on the woods at the very back of our property. That's when I felt my skin start to crawl. I opened the door and stepped out onto the porch. I had my little flashlight in hand because I keep it on the table by the door. I turned it on and shined it across the yard. Nothing but toys, the bird feeder, the swing my kids barely use anymore. Then the beam hit something else. Something standing in the trees. I'll be honest, Reels. My brain did not even want to register what I was looking at. It looked like a dog, but it was standing tall on two legs. Its head was at least 2 feet or more higher than the top of the old fence post out there. The shape was broad enough through the shoulders, but its frame was sort of skinny or lean, cut. It was like an athletic swimmer or some kind of track star. The ears were up, stiff like a shepherd's, and the eyes, when the light passed over them, they had this blue reflection. Mags went wild. She started barking crazily, growling even more, and she moved to stand between me and the trees. She was circling like she couldn't decide if she wanted to attack or retreat, but she never once took her eyes off of that thing. And the thing, it didn't move much. I didn't see it flinch at all. It didn't even act surprised that we were there. It just stood there like it had been waiting for us to notice it. I should have gone back inside right then and there. I even thought about it. But some stupid part of me wanted to see more. Now, to be clear, before this, I had heard of Dogman. And I had also heard people that never had an encounter say they want to have one. I used to think those people were absolutely insane. But after seeing one myself, I kind of understand. It scares you, but you want to see and know more. You have questions, and you think by having an encounter those questions will be answered. But I don't think that's the case. Anyway, there was this huge, thick root sticking out of the ground, and it put one of its hands up, bracing itself. It didn't look like a dog paw because I say hand, and that's what it looked like. It was long, but I could see the fingers, and the way it pressed down looked like it was holding itself up in some weird way. The nails weren't shining claws, just long, dark black, and appeared to be curved. Next, I was hit directly in the face by something, some kind of smell. It wasn't rot or blood or anything like that. It was a strong, sour, ammonia-like stench. The exact kind of smell you get when a male dog lifts his leg on a post, only 1,000 times stronger, heavier, and a lot more bitter in your nose. That's when it clicked with me that this thing wasn't just standing there, it was marking its territory, like it was staking a claim on my own yard. Mags must have picked up on it long before I did, because she had been and kept nosing at the air, pacing, barking like she knew what it meant. Next, I did something very, very dumb. I kneeled down and grabbed one of those slick, round stones out of our landscaping, threw it directly at this thing and yelled, "Get out of here," and started stomping on the porch. My voice was definitely not very confident, and it was cracking, which probably made me sound more scared than tough. The thing just tilted its head for a second. I swear it almost looked like it was amused. Then it turned as smooth as anything and went back into the tree line. I stood there for a long minute with Mags still growling. I remember shaking so bad the flashlight was bouncing all over the yard. I didn't go running after it, of course, I'm not crazy, but I did go down the next morning in the daylight. Sure enough, that smell was still there, sharp and sour in one particular patch of grass. Even though the dew was heavy, I could still smell it. Mags would not even go near it. She sniffed once and whined and backed away. A few days after that exact patch of grass all died out. I don't know what can urinate so strong that it will kill grass, but it did. For the next week, she wouldn't step into that corner of the yard. She'd walk all the way around it in a big circle if she had to, but she would not set one paw on it. Every time I saw her do that, my stomach would knot up, because if she could still smell it, maybe it was still coming back. That really bothered me. Not that I saw it once, but the fact that my dog acted like that it hadn't even left that it was still returning. I started sleeping in the recliner by the back door for a few nights, just to listen, just to make sure. I set a little motion light closer to that tree line. It went off twice, but when I went out, there was nothing there. Just that same sick smell hanging in the breeze. Like I said, it's almost been a year now, and Mag still won't go into that corner of the yard. She'll bark at squirrels, chase cats, act like her normal self everywhere else. But that one patch of yard might as well be lava to her. I can't explain it. All I know is she tried to warn me before I saw it. If your listeners take anything from this story, it's this. Always, always love, take care, and trust your animals. T. Southern Indiana. Hey, Reels. Now, I've been a listener on your channel long enough to know that if you read this, people are not going to call me crazy. That's precisely why I'm willing to do it. My girlfriend still won't talk about this at all, but my cat hasn't been the same since it happened. Now, we live in a third-floor apartment right off a busy street in Houston, Texas. Not exactly the kind of place you'd expect something like this to happen. I always figured these Dogman stories, these things were out in the country or on long stretches of dark highway. But it came right up to our window, like it didn't care who lived there or who saw it. It was just after midnight on a Sunday. My girlfriend and I were sitting on the couch, some late-night comedy rerun playing in the background, and our cat Bruno was sprawled out on the armrest. He's a big Tom, lazy most of the time, but he's got that streak where he thinks he's a guard dog when he hears someone in the hall. On this particular night, he went stiff out of nowhere. One second he was half asleep, the next his ears were pinned flat and his eyes were locked straight at the blinds covering our sliding glass door. This guy started howling and made this low, rasping growl I've never heard from him in my life. I started to wonder if maybe there was another stray cat out there. My girlfriend leaned over to peek through the blinds, but before she touched them, they rippled on their own, like someone brushed a hand against the glass from outside. That's when Bruno hissed, back was arched, his tail puffed like a bottle brush. He ran under the couch so fast he knocked the remote on the floor. And that's the exact moment that I saw it. I yanked the blinds up and pressed my face close to the glass, and there was a head staring right back at me. Now, there's no rational thought here. You can't say, wow, that's a huge dog. It's level with me. And I'll remind you, we were on the third floor. Its muzzle was pressed against the glass. Its nostrils were flared out, fogging up the window. The eyes glowed a dirty yellow from the reflection of the streetlight. They weren't curious, like a normal animal's. They were steady, looking at me like it was trying to debate on what was going to happen next. It was studying the situation. I'll be honest, that's the moment that I froze up. I should have turned, I should have gone for something, but all I could do was stand there inches from it with only glass between me and what I would assume would be death, and a gruesome death at that. It curled its lips, not all the way, not showing all the teeth, just enough to show the length of one canine. The breath hit the glass and smeared it. It was wet. My girlfriend screamed and grabbed my arm, and that kind of broke the trance I was in. I screamed, banged the door with my palm, and the thing blinked once, then backed off into the shadow like it was retreating on purpose. Against my better judgment and I don't really understand why to this day, but I slid the door open just a crack. I guess I still couldn't believe what I just saw was real. The smell rolled inside. This was something sour, musky. It didn't smell like garbage or copper or blood like other people have stated. This was a strong urine stink. This is the same way a dog would mark a corner, only it was a lot more potent. I looked down at the balcony floor and there was a damp spot near the rail, shifting under the light like it had marked right there before pressing its face to the glass. And I don't know the purpose of this, but this thing didn't just pass by our complex. It left a sign, a mark, if you will. I slammed the door shut and locked it. Bruno stayed under the couch the rest of the night, growling at nothing. The next morning I checked the balcony. The wet patch had dried, but the smell was still there when the sun hit. My neighbor, who smokes out there all the time, asked if I'd seen a dog that had been peeing on our porch. I just shrugged because I didn't really know what else to tell her. For weeks after that, Bruno would not even go near that sliding door and would stand and stare at it. He used to sit there for hours watching birds or traffic, but now he keeps to the far corner of the room. Sometimes if I slide the blinds open at night, he will just run and hide like he already knows what's on the other side. Also, about a month later, another tenant 2 floors down told me their dog went ballistic one night, barking at their balcony until it shredded the blinds. They never saw anything, but I didn't need to hear any more to know what probably happened. What happened that night is definitely burned into my head. Yellow eyes, the breath fogging up the glass, how close I was to this thing that's not supposed to be real, and that strong smell that came through our space that just should not be real either. I don't know what these things are, but I know I saw one. And that's the story, believe it or not. But I know what I saw. Houston, Texas. I board horses for a living. Small place out in western Missouri. It's enough pasture and stalls to keep a handful of people happy. Now, when you spend your life around horses, you learn their language. You know when they're nervous, when they're just full of beans, and when they're downright terrified. Now, horses are very intelligent animals. It was 2 years ago in the fall. The horses weren't spooked by the wind or a coyote. They were losing their minds over something else. Something else I was about to encounter myself. It was mid to late November, if I remember correctly. I do know it was around 1 in the morning. The wind had that hollow whistle. I was in bed when I heard this violent crashing outside. I could hear hooves pounding, wood slapping. My first thought was that a couple of the horses had gotten tangled up in the fence, or possibly some coyotes were after them. I grabbed my coat and a big flashlight and ran out there. The sight waiting for me, I'll never forget it. 2 of the mares were plastered against the far end of the paddock. Their eyes were rolling white, their flanks heaving like they'd run a mile. One gelding was circling frantically, snorting loud and rearing at the rails. It was chaos. And when horses panic like that, they're seconds away from injuring themselves. I started shouting, thinking my voice would calm them, but they didn't even register I was there. That's when my flashlight went along the fence line. At first it looked like a coyote or dog pacing, but then I realized how big it was. And this thing, as soon as the light hit it, it stood from 4 legs to 2. The shoulders were hunched, and they rolled in this weird motion with every step it took, like it had joints in the wrong places. It had its head down low, angled toward the horses. It didn't lunge or try to jump the fence. It just walked calmly, keeping pace with the horses, like it was going to toy with them before it strikes. It's like it wanted them to panic. It was enjoying their fear. I know this was a Dogman, for sure. Its eyes were yellow. Its snout was way too long. Its head was huge. The head almost looked like it was too big for the body. Its arms were long and skinny, and they didn't swing right when it moved. This thing was too heavy, too tall. It didn't look anything like a man. It didn't look anything like a dog either. It looked like both had been crammed together by something evil. I started smelling something that reminded me of blood or rot. Very strong, unmistakable smell. It was extremely potent and concentrated, and when it would hit the back of your throat, it would make you gag and almost vomit. The horses refused to go near that stretch. They were swerving away like it was on fire. Every time the gelding circled too close, he'd buck and lunge the other way. One of the mares tried to leap the rail to escape and clipped herself and cut her foreleg pretty bad. I had to haul her in the next day for stitches. I should have gone back inside and called the sheriff, but here's where I made my mistake. I took a few steps closer, the flashlight on it. That was when it froze and lifted its head. The look it gave me wasn't animal at all. It was awareness. It was intelligence. The eyes had a human appeal to them. This thing was not normal, not something that should be walking around out there. I can't describe to you the feeling that came over me. I don't know if it was trying to measure me up or what, but the barn floodlight came on when I got close enough, and as soon as it did, the thing dropped low, crouched like a runner at the start line, and ran along the ditch. It wasn't running super fast, but it was smooth, powerful strides, keeping itself low to the ground. Within seconds, it melted into the hedgerow and was gone. I just stood there, with the flashlight trained on nothing. The horses wouldn't calm down for nearly an hour. I don't know what it was doing. I don't think I scared it away from its plans. If it was thinking about taking one of the horses down, I do believe strongly that it would have, whether I was out there or not. I have no idea the purpose of this visit, but it has changed my life. I'm not sure what this means, but for weeks my boarders noticed their horses wouldn't graze near that corner where I saw it. They'd eat all around it, but left a neat half-circle bare. Horses don't lie, Reels. They remember. I've kept the floodlight on that corner ever since, and sometimes at night I think I hear a soft thump of hooves when nothing's even there. Like I said, this kind of messed me up. The mares will raise their heads at the same time. I know what that means. I didn't sleep very well for a long while after that. I'll tell you the truth. If the animals hadn't blown up that night, I would have never noticed it at all. J. Western Missouri. Reels. I've been a hunter all my life. Coon hunting mostly. Some folks fish, some golf, but I've always had my dogs and my spotlight. I'd take a cold night in the woods over anything else. That was my routine, my peace, until the night my dogs flat out refused to hunt. I live in central Arkansas, plenty of pine ridges and creeks around here. My 2 hounds, Boone and Copper, are trained up solid. They'd jump out of the box so fast most nights I had to hold them back. That's why what happened is something that will bother me for the rest of my days. It was late fall. There was no wind. It was cool out. It's a night, if you're a hunter and you go out in these late fall nights, you know that it's a night you can hear everything. I parked by the edge of the cutover, grabbed my light, and dropped the tailgate. I expected the usual dogs spilling out, noses down, tails whipping. Instead, they froze at the edge of the box. Boone let out a low, worried whine. Copper tried to crawl under him instead of hopping down. I didn't know what to think. Even if there were coyotes close, they still wouldn't act like this. I gave them the command, and nothing. Boone just tucked his tail, and Copper started scraping at the rubber mat like he wanted to bury himself. I couldn't believe it. These were dogs that lived for the hunt, acting like they were staring death in the face. That's when I heard something off in the brush. Not a deer either. This wasn't something small, this was something slow and heavy. It was a step and then a pause, and it would do that over and over, walking very slow. My flashlight caught a set of eyes for just a second between two trees. It was too high for anything that should be out there. I swung the light wider and froze. What I saw was half in the shadow, broad shoulders. Its head was absolutely massive, and it had it tilted to the left side. I could see ears pointing up off the head, and I could see that it had a very long snout that reminded me of a timber wolf. It didn't blink against my light. It didn't try to turn away. It just stared directly at me into the light. The hair on the back of my neck stood up because I realized it wasn't looking at me. It was looking straight at my dogs. That's when Boone completely lost it. He whined so loud it cracked into almost a squeal. Then he hunched down and wet himself right there in the box. I've never in my life seen him do that, not once, not even in a fight. Copper pressed so tight against the side wall I thought he'd break his ribs. I'll admit, I panicked myself. I started banging the butt of my shotgun against the truck, yelling into the dark. I didn't want to shoot because, like I said, who expects to see this, and what exactly is it? This could have been someone in a costume for all I know, but it would have had to have been a damn tall person, and broad as well. This thing didn't even pay attention to me. It just kept its head tilted, like it was curious about the noise I was making. The way you or I would watch someone hammer a nail. Then, just as calm as this thing had showed up, it just walked back. I watched the shadow of its legs bend the wrong way as it turned. They bent like a dog's, not a man's. It faded into the timber without rushing, like it was in no hurry to get away from us at all. I didn't know if it actually left or if it was going into the dark where I couldn't see to ambush my dogs, or worse, me. I should have got in the truck and left right then, but my stubbornness got the better of me, unfortunately. I didn't want to put my dogs in any unsafe situation because I love my dogs. So I slammed the tailgate shut, and both of them just laid down, panting and trembling like they'd been running for hours chasing a coon. I took my light and my shotgun and walked in the direction that thing had left. I had it in my mind that I was just going to blast it if I saw it, because after I watched it walk away, I knew for sure that this wasn't a person at all. There's no way. I was going to let it have it. I never saw, heard, or found anything. I finally gave up and got in the truck and left. What's even stranger is when we got back home, Boone wouldn't even come out of his kennel for a full day. When I finally got him back in the woods weeks later, he worked, but he wasn't the same dog. He'd spend more time glancing into the dark than on the track. Copper never really recovered. I ended up just keeping him at home as just strict pet. He just would sit in the truck box and cried every time I tried to hunt. Some folks would have sold their dog at this point, but like I said, my dogs are more than hunting dogs to me. They're part of my family. Whatever these creatures are, Reels, my dogs recognized them instantly. They knew that this thing wasn't right. They knew it was dangerous, and they wanted no part of it. I've been in the woods my whole life, as I assume you probably have as well. And this was one night that I couldn't lean on the dogs' courage. They told me plain, get out. And if anyone asked me what convinced me dogmen were real, it wasn't my eyes. It was my eyes accompanied by my hounds refusing to get out of the truck. Carl, Central Arkansas. Hello, Reels. I haven't been really sure about doing this, but after being a subscriber of yours for a couple of weeks, I have noticed that all of your other listeners are quite polite and very easygoing individuals. I haven't seen much negativity. Anyway, I figured it would be worth sharing my own encounter. This happened on my farm in eastern North Carolina. It was the spring of last year. I still can't walk into my barn without feeling sick to my stomach. It was around 2 or 3 in the morning when I woke up to the sound of absolute chaos outside. My goats were bawling, the chickens were going nuts, like they were being tossed around. And over it all, I heard my old mutt, Clyde. He was barking like he'd gone rabid. He's usually laid back, lazy even, but when he does bark, you pay attention. I grabbed my flashlight and a .38 revolver, pistol, and ran out barefoot. I was half expecting to find a fox or something else inside the barn. What I saw was a lot worse than that. The barn door was rattling on its hinges like something was trying to pull it open from the outside. The animals were all jammed into the far corner of the stalls, smashing into each other. There were feathers flying everywhere. Clyde was at the door, snapping and lunging. His teeth were clacking like he wanted to tear the world in half. I hit the latch and shoved the door open with the flashlight in one hand and the pistol in the other. The light landed on something that was crouched down just beyond the doorway. One arm stretched inside like it had already worked the latch loose. Not only seeing it, but I was hit with the smell of urine or something bitter. It was like a giant dog had marked the dirt and then rolled in it. It burned my nose and throat and made my eyes water. That's how I knew before my eyes caught up that this wasn't a fox or coyote. When the light finally hit it in the face, my knees nearly buckled. The snout on this thing, it was scarred along one side, and the teeth showed in what looked to me to be a grin that wasn't human and wasn't a growl either. This was a grin from some sort of giant canine. The eyes were almost a bright orange color. Like I said, it was crouched down low. Its shoulders were pushed forward, and it had a hand pushed into the barn, and the hand had long fingers with blunt black fingernails. I knew my little .38 wasn't going to do anything but tick this thing off. Clyde launched at it, barking and snapping, and for a second I thought I was about to watch my dog get torn apart. Instead, the thing made this loud hiss, jerked its arm back, and stood up to its full height on the two legs. Its head cleared the barn roof by a good 2 feet, and the floodlight caught it just long enough for me to see the way its legs were bent. These were bent like a dog's, with way too much length to them. As crazy as it sounds to even type this thing was easily 9 feet. There's no way it was less than that. It had to be at least 9 feet tall. I screamed and waved the flashlight and pointed the gun. I remember shaking a bit and feeling my heart, feeling like it was going to explode out of my chest. Clyde lunged again and caught its fur or its leg. I'm not sure what happened next. I was about to pull the trigger to try to save my dog, but he yelped a second later and stumbled back with blood running down his side. That's when the thing finally took off. But not before it turned and lifted its leg like a dog would, leaving a wet, streaming patch on the ground right by the threshold. This thing, when it lifted its leg, it looked like someone turned on a garden hose. It had to let out a couple gallons of water, or that's what it looked like. Probably wouldn't, but it was a lot. It wasn't running scared. This thing marked the place, claiming it, I assume. That chilled me to the bone. When it finally went into the trees, the animals were still panicking. The goats were still slamming themselves against the far wall. The chickens kept flapping and squawking until their feathers were all over the place. That smell of urine stayed thick. It hung there, in the doorway. I hurried up and pulled Clyde back inside. I patched his wounds as best I could, and I sat there with the light and my little pea shooter for the rest of the night. Every time the wind would blow, that smell would overwhelm me again. It was enough to make my eyes water. For days after that, none of the animals would even go near that side of the barn. The goats would pile into the opposite side and bleat if I tried to drag them any closer. Even Clyde, as tough as he used to be, he refuses to walk past that door. He'll skirt wide around it, hackles raised, and whine until I call him back. I've had coyotes harass my animals before. I've even lost a few chickens now and then, but this was something otherworldly. This thing wasn't looking for food. It was making a statement, and my animals knew it before I ever even got out of my bed. I ended up selling half the goats because they never settled again, and honestly, I didn't want to sentence them to death. I'll be honest, sometimes when it gets still outside, and the dog perks his ears toward the trees, it's almost like I can smell that ammonia stink again. It's faint, but it's there. I know what that means. That thing is probably still close by. I wonder if it lives somewhere near here. I haven't seen it again, but that doesn't mean it's not there. That's something people need to understand as well. You think because you don't see these things that they're not there? That's not a very smart way of thinking. If folks ask me now if I believe in Dogman, I don't even hesitate. I believe because I saw one, standing directly in front of me. It doesn't get more real than that. No pun intended. Thanks, Reels. You're a great dude, and I really appreciate what you're trying to do. Keep pushing forward. Keep bringing this to light. Keep searching for the truth. You'll eventually find it. We all will. Darlene, Eastern North Carolina. Friends, legends, family. That's where I'm going to close this one out. 5 encounters. And in each one, it wasn't the person who noticed first. It was the animals. Loyal dogs, watchful cats, horses that knew when danger was near. It really makes you think about how much we take them for granted sometimes. Take care of your pets, folks. I want to thank each and every one of you for, again, spending your time here with me. You could be doing a million other things, but you chose to sit down, listen, and be part of this community that we've all built together. That means more than I could ever put into words. Again, if you've had an encounter of your own, big or small, and if you feel ready to share it, send it over to me. Your story might be the one that helps someone else feel a little less alone in what they've gone through. Don't forget to leave a comment. I always really enjoy reading what you guys think, and it helps these stories to reach more people as well. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and if you want longer compilations, the archive channel is linked below, and that's the place for you to go. Most of all, please take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and take care of those animals that stand loyal by your side. That's going to do it, folks. I love each and every one of you. Until next time, my friends, watch over your loved ones, keep your head on a swivel, and as always, good night.